This baby's growing up in a non-religious home. As things stand, when he grows up, he can't be a High Court judge, a Supreme Court judge, or President of the country, unless he's willing to swallow his principles and take a religious oath. If he wants to be a teacher, he'll find it really difficult to get into a teacher training college in Ireland, and almost impossible to get a job in a denominational school.
But those issues don't matter today. This naming ceremony is welcoming Joseph into the circle of family and friends. Being agnostic in Ireland isn't the rarity it used to be. Heather Aylward has found a home for her set of beliefs in the Humanist Society. Sean O'Sullivan grew up as a Catholic. He leads a full life without a belief in God. Robert McGregor has been a non-believer for nearly 60 years. He's used to feeling an outsider. Tony Monk started to rebel in his teens, in his Catholic school. He refused to accept the prevailing ethos and questioned everything.
Questions on what is God, does God exist, why should one religion be any better than another, general sort of questions like that. And I was reading things like War and Peace, there was things in there about religion and sending people off to war in the name of God and all this sort of thing. And you set the mind working, you know. So I say I went from a stage of trying to make myself into a good Catholic to saying, well, no, maybe I'm not a Catholic at all. And then for a while I called myself just a Christian. And then as I thought about it a bit more, I came to the conclusion I wasn't a Christian at all, I was an atheist. That would have been at about 15, I'd say, 15, 16. The thing that amazed me was that most of my friends in the private discussion would feel the same as me. And I used to be horrified that they'd all trot out to Mass, they'd all go to confession. I could never understand it.
Terese Monks had a Catholic upbringing too. In her late teens, she started to reject the Church's teaching, especially on matters like contraception and divorce.
I decided I couldn't agree with it and I couldn't continue on with it. I felt that way for a long time before I actually did anything about it, which I think for most people is the case. They kind of go along and think, oh, you know, it'll be all right if I don't think about it too much. But then when Rebecca came along and I had a decision to make, then it really came home to me that I would have to do something. Either go the full way and be a Catholic and live the same way as everyone else would live, or just reject it altogether.
An atheist is someone who states dogmatically, there's no God. That position is a bit too negative for Tony. He prefers the term agnostic.
Originally I would have, in my youth, described myself as an atheist. I suppose there's a certain bit of intolerance there that people have when they're young. Now I call myself an agnostic. I mean, it can't be proved one way or the other whether there is a God or not.
I'm not absolutely sure if there is a God as is described in all the religion books. I'm not sure, but I don't know one way or the other. It's not something I think about every day. It's not, say, that important to me.
And do you ever feel a kind of a vacuum?
No.
And how about an instinct to prayer?
Never. No.
At times I would wonder, is there somebody up there playing tricks that, you know, how can these, certain things will happen, how can this happen? Like, is there somebody doing this deliberately, you know? I would wonder. But I would have to say no, I don't have the instinct to pray.
Being out of step with the prevailing culture can be difficult for an adult or a child. Teresa's family and friends were upset over Rebecca's non-religious upbringing.
They were very, very much disturbed when they learned that Rebecca would not be making her communion. That was a big issue for them. And indeed for all of my peers, I found that they were outraged at the thought that Rebecca would be denied this day. And when I then further explained it, I found that my parents were surprisingly very, very tolerant. They wanted me to explain to them exactly why I felt this way and why I would do such a thing, which it was an outrage to them. And when I explained how I felt, they said, well, fair enough, we have brought you up as best we could and we figure you're well able to make your own decisions. We don't agree with what you're doing, but it's your decision. And I found that other members, as I say, of my peers still cannot condone it, are very, very upset by the fact that I'm doing this with Rebecca. They feel that I should have let her have the same upbringing that I had.
Even though, are they very keen practising Catholics?
Some of them are. One or two I would class as, strict Catholics, and the others not practising at all. They would strictly go for the ceremonies, the christening and the marriage sort of thing. And I find it, I cannot discuss religion with them at all, but I value them as friends, and they're, you know, very good friends. And I just know that this is something that we couldn't possibly discuss.
There was one comment made in company, I was there,
Yes.
and about Rebecca's communion, that it was really disgusting or disgraceful that the child wasn't going to have a good moral upbringing, which I was fairly outraged at that, but I kept my own counsel because it was Therese's friends I was talking to. But that sort of attitude is just, it's fairly prevalent, that the fact that you're making a communion or something is somehow part of a moral upbringing.